In this WrestleTalk news, a major star potentially set for a WrestleMania return, the real reason for Alexa Bliss's absence from TV, Ollie's review of Dynamite, and more.
Support WrestleTalk!
Hey, did you know the opening match of WrestleMania 38 Night 2 was a Raw Tag Team Championship triple threat with RK Bro defending their belts against the Street Profits and Alpha Academy? Me neither, that entire show was a complete blur to me. But hey, the champs in that match aren't anywhere to be seen right now, with Riddle having an extended hiatus after reportedly attending rehab, and Orton having been off our screens with a back injury. Things have been relatively quiet ever since, which has naturally grown concern regarding Orton's health and chances of a return in the near future. However, these fears were slightly alleviated when Orton was pictured recently looking in rather incredible shape, potentially suggesting good news was approaching. And now, here's that good news, as PW Insider Elite is reporting that Orton is scheduled to be in Los Angeles over WrestleMania weekend. However, what exactly he is going to be doing over the weekend is currently unclear. Interestingly, this seems to tie in with PW Insider's report on Orton last week, which stated that there were rumblings within WWE regarding Orton, so potentially this is all linked. Regardless of whether this spells an Orton return or not, we at WrestleTalk would like to continue to offer our well wishes to the Viper in his ongoing recovery. Now, on to some more serious news regarding the status of WWE Raw star Alexa Bliss. Following her loss to Bianca Belair at January 28th's Royal Rumble, it was reported that Bliss will be taking an extended hiatus from WWE. However, this was later denied by Bliss, yet we still have not seen her back on WWE TV since. Well, unfortunately, it seems that the reason could be quite serious. Bliss would reveal that a spot on her face would lead to her thankfully getting treatment for a form of skin cancer, explaining, "There was a spot on my face, yes, that had gotten worse, so went to get biopsy, was basal cell carcinoma. During my procedure, doc also found other squamous cells. Was a quick and easy procedure, glad I always get my skin checked." Which is some great news that it's been sorted so soon, but that may not actually be the reason Alexa's been off our screens, as it was revealed that Alexa is now the second wrestler to be unveiled as a competitor on The Masked Singer behind Chris Jericho. She was an axolotl. Nice. So maybe that's why she's been off our screens. Who knows? And now let's keep talking about FTR and the will they won't they dance with their AEW future. According to a recent interview with Fightful, Dax Harwood revealed that his podcast has led to heat backstage in AEW, which he expected some of with the CM Punk situation, but was aware that if it ever got too negative, he'd scale it back. Interestingly, Dax also revealed that Punk has been reading Steve Kern's book, and that it's made Punk miss wrestling. Even more interestingly, Punk himself would comment on the book and a moment in it where Kern and Coco Beware got into a backstage fight. Posting a comment on a pro wrestling podcast Instagram post, Punk said, "Great story about Gator and Coco fighting in the locker room, and then Lawler drags him in the office the next day and they squash it. Fascinating." CM Punk return confirmed, obviously. I'm sure Ollie's very happy. Do you think Punk can actually squash his beef with the Elite and he'll return before long? Let us know in the comments. Now, over to Ollie for Dynamite.
Now it's time for my review of AEW Dynamite in about 5 minutes. Since the dream match of Kenny Omega vs Vikingo was announced, wrestling Twitter discourse has been dominated by, "Where's the story?" I see both sides. Omega vs Vikingo is an in-ring dream match that doesn't actually need a story, just a video package about the context. And them breaking the laws of wrestling physics is probably enough. But also, one of the major issues with AEW over the last 6 months has been a distinct lack of soap opera drama. Whether this was always the plan or Tony Khan channeled his Twitter troll rage to level up creative this week in Kansas City, the result was one of the most satisfyingly structured episode-long narratives ever in Dynamite. The show began with a cold open on Hangman Page outside with an ambulance. Matt and Nick Jackson had been brutally attacked before the show started. Hangman was being a good friend and rode with them to the local medical facility, while Don Callis, that carny piece of poo, convinced Kenny Omega to stay to wrestle his main event against Vikingo. This provided an episode-long whodunit hook. Not that hook, which was paid off with an even larger whodunit hook. Again, not that hook. I love whodunits. Unless the reveal is Eric Rowan's evil twin. Who am I kidding? I love that too. But this is AEW Dynamite, You know what that means. The actual show beginning with Orange Cassidy's entrance music. He was Sting's birthday present, as they both tagged with Darby Allin against Kip Sabian, the Butcher and the Blade in a match set up on AEW's first ever, but actually second ever, house show last Saturday. It's like everything aggressively has a story now. This was so much fun, with Sabian, Cassidy and Sting in particular having some terrifically goofy spots, with Sting doing a bunch of Orange's trademark bits. Sting got the win a few days after his 64th birthday, and Darby Allin then looked up at the double or nothing sign hanging over the audience. A subtle and neat transition into a recap of the Four Pillars segment from last week, keeping that storyline plate spinning. MJF feuds consistently over-deliver, but I am a little concerned that the actual match is teased to be 2.5 months after the first angle. The Guns quickly beat Top Flight thanks to the Kingdom's interference from Ring of Honor, which was all really a setup for FTR to challenge for the tag team titles. The Guns wouldn't accept Cash's conditions that they'd never challenge for the championships again, or they'd split up as a team if they lost, so Dax did the only thing he knows how to these days. Tease FTR are leaving AEW. The tag title match was made for if FTR lose, they'd have to leave the promotion. I expect them to stay, as I actually reckon they've re-signed with AEW months ago and Dax is the ultimate worky McWork face. But there's enough doubt to make the eventual match super tense. A good storyline that is going to create some super squeaky sphincter near falls. Jade Cargill is serving Taya Valkyrie papers that she can't use her finisher. That's what the TBS title has been missing. A legal element. Hook squashed Stokely Hathaway despite the manager's best efforts to get out of the match. I'd like Hook to do something serious now. Adam Cole came down to cut his first in-ring promo since he announced his return back in January, ahead of his in-ring wrestling return next week. And just when he was deciding who his opponent should be, Daniel Garcia interrupted. At first, I was a bit disinterested. Garcia's prolonged JAS involvement has really sapped his appeal, but Garcia ran down his achievements, how he's beaten Bryan Danielson, that he's main evented more AEW TV episodes than anyone else over the last year, that he's the best pro wrestler, sports entertainer, in a fantastic glimpse into what he actually believes in his heart. He needs to split from the JAS pronto, as he's really outgrown their shtick. This was a first-class wrestling promo segment, totally selling me on wanting to see their match. Jon Moxley won a really good fight against Stu Grayson, half the match built around Mox dominating, the second half having an excellent Grayson comeback. The Blackpool Combat Club also beat Stu up as he was being seen to by medics backstage later on, really getting them over as bully heels. Ricky Starks called out Juice Robinson for Rampage. We got another QTV segment, but oddly, without Powerhouse Hobbs. It's a fun gimmick, but not the right one for the TNT champion. Much like Mox getting over Grayson in defeat, I thought Toni Storm made Sky Blue look great, even though she beat her. Rio and Willow Nightingale chased the Outcasts off from the post-match beatdown afterwards, begging the question, why not just be down there the whole time? And the main event was yet another one of Dynamite's best matches in history, as Omega took on El Hijo. I'm just going to say Vikingo. As Omega took on Vikingo, which really did have all the story. A much-needed video package put over the history of Omega and Vikingo's series of near misses, and Kenny was expertly selling that his head was partly on his injured friends in a local medical facility. But furthering the overbearing manager tease 2 weeks ago, it was Don Callis who convinced him to stay. That maybe this is a good thing, that Kenny can finally focus on being a single star again, the god of pro wrestling. He was effectively saying, just me and you, Kenny, just like the good old days, before you had friends. The match itself was phenomenal. Not just a pay-per-view caliber match, but a match of the year pay-per-view caliber match. Vikingo is as exciting to see wrestle with his 630 Sentons and Dragon Ranas as early Rey Mysterio was in WCW. When he flew, it felt like you were watching the physical limits of what wrestling can do right now be pushed and redrawn. And Kenny, the best wrestler in the world, was the perfect base foil to Vikingo's flying, brutally cut him off with a pocket full of V-triggers. They wrestled near 20 minutes, another sign that AEW has fixed its pacing issues, giving segments and matches the full time they need, and Kenny won with a one-winged angel. Tony Schiavone interviewed Kenny afterwards, where he was attacked by the Blackpool Combat Club. It was those guys who took out the Bucks. But then a Hangman stolen ambulance was shown pulling up for Page's music to hit to a huge pop. He chased off the Combat Club, but then that carny piece of poo Don Callis pretended Hangman had hit him, causing Kenny to help Don out, looking distrustingly at Page. This was a great way to prolong the Hangman Omega reunion, while also possibly building the perfect enemy to unite them. Don Callis himself. I think it was Don who got the BCC to take out the Bucks to make Kenny the best he could be. He wants the old Kenny back. And with him scouting Takeshita for the last few months, Callis could also add him to the Combat Club. Yes, please. I love how interconnected the whole upper half of AEW's roster just became. This is the storyline meat that's been missing. This week's Dynamite is 88%. Now watch our WrestleTalk update video to tell you all about what we've got in store for you. Hello and welcome to this WrestleTalk update video. I'm Ollie Davis, and this is going to be a bit of a different video because we're going to do that whole transparency thing. We're going to talk about WrestleTalk and what it is and what it's going to be. And for that, I'm not just joined by Luke Owen, DAD, in a rare behind-the-scenes shot. I'm also joined by